In the quiet township of Garankua, Lerato welcomed her first daughter on a warm Tuesday morning. The baby was soft, delicate, peaceful, and she named her Amahle, the beautiful one. Lerato adored her instantly, calling her my angel, the child of my prayers. A year later, on a stormy night that rattled the zinc roof, her second daughter arrived. This one screamed with a fierce voice, fists clenched as if she already sensed the battles ahead. Lerato named her Lerato, love, but ironically she received the least of it. Where Amahle's birth brought joy, Lerato's brought exhaustion. Where Amahle's cries drew soft lullabies, Lerato's drew irritation. Where Amahle was kissed, Lerato was instructed. Even their father, Sibusiso, tried to bridge the gap. But long work hours at the taxi rank and Lerato's stubborn ways made him a quiet witness to the growing imbalance. By the time Amahle took her first steps, Lerato had already crowned her the chosen one. And Lerato, she learned to hold her own hand. Destiny had already bent the wind, one child raised in sunshine, the other in shadow. From preschool to grade 4, the pattern became a permanent fixture. Amahle, neatly braided hair, new uniforms, fruit-packed lunches. Lerato, hurried cornrows, faded dresses, and whatever leftovers were found that morning. At school, Amahle was bubbly, adored by teachers, followed by friends. Lerato was quiet, observant, and always ready to defend herself. One day, Mrs. Reid, her class teacher, pulled Lerato aside after she noticed the girl shared her sandwich with 2 other hungry children. "Why didn't you bring lunch today?" she asked softly. Lerato shrugged, eyes avoiding the teacher. "It's okay, ma'am, I'm used to it." Mrs. Reid felt her heart tighten. Some children screamed their pain. Others learned to live with it. At home, Lerato praised Amahle for the smallest achievements. "You're so smart, my girl, you'll go far." But when Lerato came home with good grades, Lerato responded with, "Good, go wash the dishes." Amahle received kindness without working for it. Lerato worked for everything and received nothing. Yet even as a child, Lerato whispered to herself, "One day I will write my own story." One afternoon, Lerato was walking home when a boy from her school, Jerry, caught up with her. He admired her strength, the way she carried herself, her seriousness. She was not like the loud girls who chased attention, she had depth. "You know," he said shyly, "I think you're different in a good way." Lerato smiled for the first time that week. But when Lerato later found out about Jerry, she scolded her harshly. "Boyfriend, no, Amahle is the one who deserves a good man. You focus on responsibilities." Amahle watched silently, enjoying the scene. Lerato felt her heart ache, but she swallowed it. Pain became her fuel. After matric, the difference between the sisters became undeniable. Amahle barely passed and kept bragging about going to college, though she had no plan. Lerato passed with distinctions, but Lerato refused to support her. "University is expensive. Rather stay home and find a job," she said, dismissing her dreams. Sibusiso, quiet as always, slipped R1000 into Lerato's hand. "It's all I have, please forgive me for not protecting you." Lerato cried silently, hugging him tightly. She left home at dawn the next day, a small bag, a dream and prayer. She found a room in Tembisa, got a job at a retail store, and applied for a short-term logistics course. Life was tough. She ate pap and tea for weeks. She studied during night shifts. She cried often but kept moving. Slowly, her resilience began attracting opportunities. Her supervisor noticed her dedication and recommended her for a junior position. She met people who valued her work ethic. She took every certificate she could find. Meanwhile, Amahle still depended on Lerato, hopping from one dream to another, chasing men who promised luxury but delivered drama. The balance of life had begun shifting. 3 years later, Lerato was no longer the girl who left home with a trembling heart. She now worked in a logistics company, earning well, respected and growing in confidence. Her relationship with Fabrizio grew stronger. He loved her gently, fully, sincerely. "You survived things that were designed to break you," he often said. And she would smile because she finally believed it. At 26, she bought her first car. At 28, her first apartment. At 30, she partnered with Bungani, an ambitious entrepreneur, to start a logistics firm. Bungani admired her discipline. "You think like someone who's lived 1,000 lives," he joked. Meanwhile, Amahle had a baby with a man who vanished shortly after. Lerato blamed the man, never her daughter's lack of discipline. Finances became tight, stress built up. Lerato's health began to fade. One evening, she looked at her reflection and whispered, "Where did I go wrong?" She had planted her love unevenly, and life was giving her a harvest she didn't expect. Amahle's life grew heavier each year. She struggled to keep stable employment and depended heavily on Lerato, who was agging fast and sinking under the pressure of supporting both her daughter and grandchild. Amahle had beauty, charm and softness, but no resilience. The world was no longer impressed with her excuses. She envied Lerato's success, the car, the apartment, the confidence. But she never admitted it. Instead, she scrolled through Lerato's posts with a bitter heart. One night, in a moment of frustration, Amahle shouted at her mother, "You made me this way, you never taught me to stand alone." The words echoed painfully through the small house, and for the first time in her life, Lerato was speechless. The daughter she favoured was now the one she couldn't control, couldn't help and couldn't depend on. Life had finally answered. Lerato only returned home when her father Sibusaizo passed away. She drove into the yard in a clean silver car, carrying bags of groceries and dignity. Aunt Dipuo gasped, "Heben, wow, Lerato, is this your life now?" Lerato smiled calmly. "I've worked very hard, Aunt." Lerato watched from the doorway, a mixture of pride, guilt and shame twisting inside her. Lerato handled funeral arrangements, paperwork and finances with a grace that amazed the whole family. Amahle cried loudly, overwhelmed, unable to handle responsibility. One evening, after most relatives had left, Lerato approached Lerato slowly. "Can we talk, my child?" she whispered. Lerato turned to her, expression unreadable. "I failed you," Lerato began, voice cracking. "I loved one child too much and the other too little. I am ashamed, I'm sorry." Tears rolled down her cheeks. Lerato felt years of pain rise, but she also felt something else, release. "Ma," she said softly, "you hurt me deeply, but I survived, and I won't carry bitterness forever." Lerato broke down, holding Lerato's hands like a lifeline. Forgiveness didn't happen instantly, but understanding did. Time passed. Lerato became the silent protector of the family, not because she owed them anything, but because her heart knew how to turn pain into purpose. Amahle eventually matured too, though slowly. She learned responsibility through motherhood and regret. Lerato spent her elderly years reflecting, learning, and slowly making peace with the consequences of her choices. One Sunday afternoon, after hosting a family lunch at her townhouse, Lerato stepped outside with Jerry. The sun was warm, the breeze gentle. "You know," she said quietly, "life has a strange way of balancing things." Jerry nodded. "You rose because you were forced to grow. Amahle fell because she was never taught to stand." Lerato closed her eyes, letting the breeze wash over her. She was no longer the child who cried quietly in dark corners. No longer the girl who begged for love. No longer the ignored daughter. She had risen, and her life was proof that destiny always finishes the story. Because favouritism may shape people, but it does not decide their future. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to our channel for more stories like this. See you in the next one.